only value add 5% of our tea. Our strategy is to move value addition of our tea to 50% in the next 3 years. The second sector, that's agriculture. The second sector we want to focus on is transforming our MSMEs. I have given you the statistics. The statistics is that we have close to 15 million people in that space. 10 million of them hardly make 100, 200, 300 shillings. Our intervention is threefold. Number one, we want to create business infrastructure for these people. There must be markets, there must be spaces, there must be areas where business can be done legitimately and decriminalize people's enterprises. Number two, there must be legislation to protect everybody's business. The details are in the manifesto. And number three, the single largest challenge the MSMEs face is that they pay interest on credit that none of you here can believe. Most of them pay 10% per day, which translates to 3,600 per year. Better ones pay 10% per month, which translates into 120% per year. And in so doing, their profits are eaten by just one item, credit. Our plan is to ensure through the Hustler Fund, and we have said we are going to commit 50 billion shillings every year to this Hustler Fund, so that the Mamamboga and the Boda Kai and the fellow at the kiosk and the fellow at the saloon and the good lady running a saloon somewhere can find credit that is not predatory. And these are the numbers. If we increase, because that's the net effect. The net effect is that we will increase the earnings of these 10 million Kenyans by 200 shillings per day. That is 2 billion shillings a day. And that is 760 billion shillings a year. Any manufacturer who gets 1% of that market gets 7.6 billion shillings business. So when we say bottom up, it is not the same as bottom versus up. It is bottom up. Let me go to the third subject of housing. Housing, ladies and gentlemen, we are short of 2 million houses as we speak. And every year, the requirement is we build 250,000 houses. We are only building 50,000 houses every year. And of the 50,000 houses, only 2% are low-cost houses. The rest are out of reach to most Kenyans. The challenge is that that problem is a moving target. Every year, 500,000 Kenyans join or go into cities and towns. The rate of urbanization is 4.4%. At the rate of 4.4%, every year, 500,000 Kenyans find themselves in urban settlements. And we already have a shortage of houses. So as Kenya Kwanza, we looked at the challenge and we decided to turn it into an opportunity. We've turned it into an opportunity to do several things. Number one, of course, to create jobs. Number two is to create affordable, low-cost houses. How are we going to do it? This is how we plan to do it. First, we need to face the challenge of land. The biggest cost that goes into housing is the cost of land. We decided that we are going to do public land, or we are going to get land that is not expensive, even if it is away from the city, and provide infrastructure to get people from where it is to the city. Number two, we are going to work with developers to structure low-cost financing. Today, many developers get loans at 14, 15, 20%. We want to structure a 3% to a maximum of 5% financing for low-cost housing. The third component is we want to engage modern technology of building. We do not have to use stones. We can employ new technologies that deliver for us cheaper houses. Number four, we have to standardize housing products, windows, doors, and all the other infrastructure. Today, everybody, each one of us is building a designer house, because every house, the windows are different, the doors are different. So it's a designer house because it's all different. What we are going to do is we are going to standardize so that we can mass produce housing products. If we know that a one-bedroom house, the size of the door will be like this, you can produce them en masse. The size of the window will be like this, you can produce them en masse. And our Juakali sector can produce these housing products in mass. That brings down the cost by almost 30%, just by eliminating the designer structures of every house. Of course, we all know designer suits are more expensive than all the other suits. And that's what we are doing. And finally, we have to structure an offtake plan. Low cost, long-term mortgage. Let me tell you, my regret is that we didn't implement this housing plan that was in the Big Four. Because our plan is to build 250 housing units every year, and our plan is to ensure that at least 50% of these houses are low-cost houses. We want to make it possible for a person who is paying 10,000 shillings today rent to still pay 10,000 for a two-bedroom house, and in 15, 20 years, the house belongs to them because they are paying mortgage. It is possible to deliver a house of $1 million, maximum 2 million shillings, and therefore the mortgage can fit into the rent citizens are paying today. That way, we will create more property owners in our great country. Today, we have about 30,000 mortgages. It is our belief that we should get to 1 million mortgages in the next 5 years. The fifth item that I want to go to is manufacturing. Manufacturing is the place we are not doing well. In the last 5 years, manufacturing as a contribution of our GDP has gone down from 9% to 7%, 9.3% to 7%. That reverse is not healthy for our country. The challenge with our manufacturing is that it has always focused on capital-intensive investment rather than labor-intensive outcomes. We are focused on 5 areas in our manufacturing plan. Leather, let me begin there. It's a very sad story, let me tell you, on leather. Kenya has the 3rd largest herd in the continent of Africa of cows. 3rd largest. Do you understand? We have close to 30 million livestock. We slaughter 3 million livestock every year. We can only use 10% of hides and skin. 10%. We were in Kajiado. We were in Wajir. And the citizens there were telling us, why are you allowing us to throw away our hides and skins? It's being eaten by dogs. Sometimes we have to bury it. Sometimes we have to dispose it. In fact, disposing it has become a challenge. Meanwhile, we are importing 20 million pairs of shoes every year made from leather products, made from skins and hides of other people's cows. We are burying our own leather. Other people, then we go to buy other people's. Today, the leather industry is 15 billion, right? Thereabout, 14.5, 15 billion shilling industry. We can move it to 140 billion shilling industry. Today, the leather industry employs 10,000 in the formally and another 17,000. We can employ 120,000 Kenyans in the leather industry. I want you to listen to me carefully. I am not talking about us importing anything. We have the cows. We are slaughtering them anyway. The only problem is that we are not making use of the skin and hides. That, I don't want to say it's stupid. Yeah? I don't want to say that. But you see, that's where we are. So, what are we proposing as Kenya Kwanza? We're saying we will turn around the leather industry. We will invest. The reason why we took the SGR to Naivasha is because we thought we would use it to create a big industry out of the steam that is available readily there and out of the power that is readily available there. Huge industry around the leather industry. Leather products, from shoes to bags to everything else that goes with leather, will be a big, and that does not require importing nothing. We have everything here. All we need to do is to leverage on technology and bring transfer of knowledge and skills, and we are good to go. Building products is another space that we have, especially if we are going to go to locust housing and implement our housing plan. The whole Juakali sector will be busy generating doors, generating windows, making sure that there are enough building material products in quarries and in all the other places. Pharmaceutical industry is another space. Our budget on health is 550 billion every year. Our expenditure, let me say, our total expenditure on health is 550 billion. 20% of that is pharmaceutical products and consumables. We are only producing 20%. it is possible for us to produce 100%. We have pharmaceutical companies here. Let me tell you the story. We have pharmaceutical companies here. They are producing at half the capacity. The reason why we are not exploiting that capacity, creating more jobs in the capacity that they are using so that we can supply our own pharmaceutical products is a very big guess. Garment and textile industry. That is the other space that we have. The garment industry today, we export $500 million, which is about 50 billion of garments outside the country. When we signed into AGOA, we were supposed to produce the cotton to provide the yarn and the fabric for this export. As of today, 40%, not 40%, actually 40 billion of yarn and fabric is being imported from Asia to come and at the EPZ. I was in Kilifi last week, and the people working at the EPZ were asking me, Mr. Deputy President, we are producing garments here that we are exporting to America. We can also produce garments that can be consumed, that can be sold in Kenya. They have the technology. So that is a space we want to focus on. The whole cotton value chain, from growing of cotton, and I want to give you the good news, we are going to start growing big BT cotton in Kenya. Yes. It has higher yields. It is more drought resistant. The trials have been done, and the trials are very good. They are showing that we have very good productivity, and therefore, one more time, we will have our cotton industry up and running, and we can push that industry to another 100 billion shilling industry. I can say the same of edible oil. It's another value chain that can give us jobs. It's another value chain that can give us jobs. I can say the same of electric motorcycles and electric cars. That's another value chain we can develop here because we have the market for it here. We have a market of 200,000 border borders every year. That's a market we can supply from Kenya. Let me leave that there. We have huge space, good people, in manufacturing, and that is our focus. Number five, is the digital highway. We are saying it's time that we move into the digital space. That's where the whole world is going anyway. Most of our services are now on a digital platform. Very many investments are in that direction. What do we plan to do as Kenya Kwanza? We plan to do the following as Kenya Kwanza. Number one, we already have a 10,000 kilometer backbone, fiber optic backbone, that goes all the way to every sub-county. It already serves 60% of the population. Kenya Kwanza, we want to invest in what we called in electricity connection, the last mile. When we started the last mile on electricity in 2013, there were only 2.3 million connections. We now have 8.8 million connections to houses. What we will do with the internet and the digital highway is, in the next 5 years, we will extend the fiber by 100,000 kilometers. Let me repeat, so that you're clear. we will extend by 100,000 kilometers. How are we going to do it? We are going to extend it on the electricity grid backbone that already exists. Every home, every shopping center, every school, every dispensary, every hospital that is connected to the grid will be connected to the internet. And in 5 years, we will close the digital gap, and every Kenyan will have access to the internet. The many young people who today are struggling with bundles, the many young people who want to do their thing on the internet, or to make calls, or to communicate, they will have an opportunity to do so with ease from the comfort of their homes or at the shopping center, because we already have 24,000 markets connected to electricity, and those 24,000 markets will be connected to the internet. That will be the biggest revolution ever. We have the opportunity to create close to 5,000 new SMEs. We have the opportunity to leverage on government delivery of government services. And we have the opportunity for online shopping and many other things that come with access to internet. And for your information, there is money to do it. We already have 15 billion shillings in the Universal Fund. So if we securitize the Universal, this whole program will cost about 40 billion. So if you have 15 billion, you can deliver the rest. It's as simple as that. There was a proposal by the Communication Authority to use the 15 billion to build a hotel. So I think deploying the last mile of the internet is more like it, because that is the core function of the Communication Authority. I have said, and let me repeat, every school that's on the grid, every hospital, every dispensary, every market that's on the grid will be connected. And the creative potential of our young people, the creative industry will now have the very perfect chance to be able to do their thing. The seventh space is the service economy. We believe as Kenya Kwanza that the service economy is a key factor in employment, expanding our tax base, expanding our tax revenues, and ensuring that we have foreign exchange. In that financial sector, we want to leverage on our SACCOs and cooperatives to deliver financial products, and especially credit, affordable credit, to the bottom of the pyramid. On top of the Hustler Fund, we're going to develop other packages that will make it possible for us to deliver financial products that create access to credit to the majority of people who do not have credit at the bottom of the pyramid. That way, we will expand their enterprises, and that way we will also make sure that they participate in job creation and in expanding our tax base. Under services, we also have tourism. Tourism, we are stuck at 2 million visitors for a very long time. We have to decide whether we want the sector to work for the few or to create jobs for the many. We just have to, if we continue, we have to diversify our tourism product. It cannot continue to be beach and wildlife. We have to do adventure. We have to do culture. We have to do many other areas. And we have to create the infrastructure for young people. We have to create infrastructure that is affordable, low-cost hotels, bed and breakfast facilities. We have to budget hotels. We cannot continue to sell the high-end products because it just satisfies a few people. In fact, we are so stuck there that today you have so many exclusive facilities. Some of the facilities you pay 500,000 shillings a night. How many people will pay 500,000 shillings a night? Good people. How are we going to grow our numbers? Thailand. Let me give you an example. Thailand, a country like, just like Kenya, our size, slightly more people, 70 million people, 50 something million in Kenya. So we are almost the same. But they do 40 million tourists every year because they have created so many niches and they have made it possible for so many people to travel. We can choose to continue our tourism to be high-end, and we will be stuck at 2 million. But if we took it to 20 million, we will have more people working in hotels. We will have more people helping with the transport. We will have. So, in fact, tourism is the ultimate trickle-down model that is causing a problem in our country. We just have to turn it the other way around. It cannot continue to be the way it is. It doesn't matter what you get out of 2 million people. It's not the same as if we had 10 million people coming to Kenya. If we had 10 million people coming to Kenya, as a factor, they say for every tourist employs 3 people. So the numbers will add up. So we just have to change the model and do a better package. I know players in the industry sector may have issues with that. Finally, let me talk about aviation. And I'm going to single out the sugar industry because that's where we have a huge crisis. But let me talk about aviation. Africa has 15% of the population of the world, but we have only 2% of air traffic, meaning that there is potential, there is huge potential for us in the air travel space. And the financial challenges therein are a reflection of internal and managerial mistakes rather than market prospects. It is not the market. It cannot be the market. There is a problem with management and there is a problem with conflict of interest, and there is a problem that we all know. Being a national asset and being a strategic asset, Kenya Airways is not an asset we would want to let go at all. And therefore, it cannot also continue to be on life support forever. We have to agree. So our commitment as Kenya Kwanza is that we are going to develop a turnaround strategy for Kenya Airways within 2 years and bring it back to what it is supposed to do. And it is possible. Our sugar industry, and I was in Mumias the other day, has suffered the brand of underinvestment. We have committed as Kenya Kwanza that aside from writing off all the debts that are owed by government, we are also going to negotiate to banks and other individuals with a view of paying them off so that we can make the factories in Mumias, in Zoya, and all the other government-owned factories free of debt. And then we can then inject new capital and ensure that we have modern facilities that will be able to deliver to our sugarcane farmers the same way the private mills are doing. It cannot be that all the private mills are doing well and all the government mills are making losses. It's not possible. There must be a structural problem. Let me also talk about sports, because it's an important sector for us. We are a great sporting nation, and we need to leverage our sports to do at least 3 things. Number 1, to project our country and profile our country in a manner that we can leverage on the other sectors of the economy, number 1. Number 2, we must create a big sports garment industry out of Kenya, out of our sportsmen and women. Because everywhere in the world, if you said this shoe comes from Kenya, the sporting nation, you will get a premium price for it. And of course, we must make sure that the fund that we set up to deal with matters of sports infrastructure, which currently is being used to do other things, we have to ring-fence that money. We collected, I think, 15 billion, but it was used to build hospitals instead of used to build sports infrastructure. All the resources coming from the fund must go to developing sports infrastructure. As I conclude, I want to talk about environment and climate change. We commit as Kenya Kwanza to grow 5 million acres of trees under agroforestry. We also commit to build industry out of solid waste. And we are going to begin with Sakaja in Nairobi. We're going to begin with Sakaja in Nairobi. Solid waste, apart from being an environmental hazard, we can flip it and create jobs, industry, power, and many other products, building materials out of it. That will be our focus. building materials out of it. That will be our focus. Let me talk about 2 or 3 enablers. One of them have a universal health insurance that will make sure that every Kenyan will go to hospital. In the manifesto, let me say 4 things. We need to do 4 things. Number 1, as a matter of urgency and within our first on paper every time, and you don't have to go for MRI here and then you go to another hospital, you do another MRI. It should be possible to make that MRI that was done in this hospital available in the next hospital because we have. That will also assist us in making sure that we have information on the health of our country and how many people are in what category and what do we need to do and even what kind of drugs we need to keep on our shelves. Secondly, we are going to sort out and establish a stakeholder managed national procurement scheme for drugs. The same thing that happens with procurement of our petroleum products. And we avoid the problems in Kwanza. We have committed, because we had meetings with health professionals and people in the professional sector, funding council, so that it looks at the skills and it funds the skills that are necessary for the trajectory we are going into. And then finally, we will complete the construction of the 52 TVET institute wards that do not have a vocational training center. We will do those. We will construct those also. And then we will also close the gap on teachers in our schools. We have a gap of 116,000 teachers. We have undertaken as Kenya Kwanza that we are going to hire the 116th year too. We have also undertaken that to lower the cost of education, we are going to have a special tariff for utilities, for power, for water, for internet to our learning institutions. We are going to have a special tariff. We have also said that the current program on school feeding of 2 million school-going children, we are going to also undertaken that within 3 months we will have a mechanism, and within 12 months we will execute and attain the 2/3 gender principle that is provided for in the Constitution. And we have agreed that women and young people who have LPOs will become automatic beneficiaries of the Hustler Fund without any further requirement. Our persons living with disability, we had an engagement with them, and I see them around. And we agreed with them that all people living with disability will be enrolled in NHIF in the first 18 months. We also agreed that integrated schools to allow children living with disability to start interacting with the general public, to restore their confidence and self-esteem. We also agreed that we increase capitation of pupils living with disability by another 50% and set aside 15% of public-funded bursaries set aside for pupils living with disability. Let me also, we will continue the program we have on roads, complete first all the stalled road projects, and reassess in accordance with the proposals that were made to us in the county forums. In the county forums, several roads were suggested that would make the economies of those counties work better. We will work with the counties and the county priority roads so that we can go into the future with the road infrastructure that is there. And then finally, I will go to governance. And before I go to governance, let me speak to something about water. Water is very important.
Supermarket, fast delivery, Jumia food, uko nyumbani, tuko njiani.
Very important as a principle. We have sat down with experts and we have agreed that this time round we are going to have a different strategy of deploying water, especially from the big dams. We have 57 dams that we already identified as government last term. We have changed, or we have agreed to work on a different strategy of delivery. The same way we have power purchase agreements, we are going to work on water purchase agreements so that we can bring the private sector on board. There are many people who are willing to invest in our huge dams or even in underground water. For example, the Turkana aquifer. There are proposals from the private sector that if we give them a water purchase agreement, they will be able to invest their own money. And the same way they sell us power, they can sell us water. So we believe that that is the future to delivery of water from big dams, so that it leaves government to work on climate smart water harvesting initiatives, water harvesting programs, implement policy that will ensure that we harvest and harness all the water that we can as we work with the private sector to deliver water from our aquifers and from our large dams. Finally, then I will take a few questions. Let me go finally to governance. We are the team that will complete the implementation of the 2010 Constitution. We believe that rather than mutilate the Constitution for political expediency, there is a lot that needs to be completed in terms of implementing the 2010 Constitution. Kenya Kwanza will end political weaponization of state institutions. This includes the criminal justice system, tax authorities, anti-corruption institutions, and the entire security apparatus. We want these institutions to operate independently as is expected of them by the Constitution. In our first 100 days, we will implement the constitutional requirement of a police service commission to have its own budget and its own accounting officer. We do not believe that the police should be begging for money from the office of the president. The police should run its own independent budget with its own accounting office. The saying, "He who pays the piper calls the tune," is the current problem with our criminal justice system. We are also going to operationalize on our first day in office the Judiciary Fund, and as established by the Constitution. We believe the judiciary must be independent, operationally, constitutionally, and financially. The 2.5% of the budget required to run the judiciary will be made available to the judiciary, so that the judiciary can run its course, deliver justice, and do so in a timely manner. Because justice delayed is justice denied. Kenya Kwanza will end all unauthorized evictions and property demolitions. The kind of spectacle we see in Kariobangi and Korogosho is not only inhuman, it is unconstitutional, and it should never be allowed to happen to any other country. Kenya Kwanza will end ethnic profiling in the issuance of identity documents. And we will specifically establish an administrative appeal tribunal to ensure a fair and transparent process in the registration of persons, with clear appeal procedure of not more than 14 days if a person is denied registration. Of course, we will appoint all the judges nominated by the Judicial Service Commission to the Court of Appeal. Of course we will. And we will do it within 7 days. Kenya Kwanza will ensure that we respect, we protect, and defend freedom of worship. We will lift the existing moratorium on registration of new religious organizations and expedite the registration processes. We will complete the transfer of all functions constitutionally earmarked as devolved functions to counties within 3 months. And we will strengthen the intergovernmental institutions of Council of Governors, IBEC, the Summit, and make sure that they meet regularly. We will, of course, respect the devolved system of government and review the formula for sharing national resources between the two levels of government and allocation of the revenue by either level of government to take into consideration population and other factors provided for under the law. On public service under our security services, we will ensure that there is a contributory benevolent fund for families of fallen and terminally ill officers, including mental illness. We will harmonize affordable housing mortgages similar to that of the judiciary and parliament to be available for our public service and the police. We will ensure that there is horizontal transfer options for people in service with the rest of the public service. It should be able to transfer your services between the police, public service, the civil service, so long as they are the same cadre. We'll ensure that there is an insurance cover for loss of life while on duty for all police officers, similar to that of the military. Security sector reform is good for everyone, and police reform efforts must not be wound back. Therefore, we will ensure that within the first 100 days, the Kenya Kwanza administration will commission a review that will consider improvement of remuneration and terms of service for all officers in the security sector to be commensurate with the current cost of living. And finally, we will deploy robust, creative, and engaging foreign exchange policy to raise Kenya's profile as a regional anchor state and amplify our partnership with the rest of the world, including Africa, USA, China, Europe, United Kingdom, India, among other partners. We will give a place of prominence to the role of Kenya's diaspora, including a ministry to take care of diaspora issues. Kenyans are rightfully skeptical of lofty promises and seemingly well-crafted plans that never get implemented. We have developed this plan, well aware that this plan will stand or fall on implementation. We believe that the implementation plan outlined in this manifesto will demonstrate to Kenyans that this plan is rigorously appraised and financeable within the resources constraints that we face. Thank you very much. Right, let's take our seats again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Another round of applause for His Excellency the Deputy President and Kenya's Fifth President, inshallah. Let's get a few questions now from the audience. I will start there. Dennis.
All right. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Charles Karondo from Kiharo, Moranga County. And first of all, I really want to congratulate you for the great plan that you have shared with us today. Before I ask the question, I also want to note that today I feel it for the IBC chair, because wherever he is listening to this speech today and the manifesto, he must really be having a hard time restraining himself from converting this into an inauguration ceremony and just swearing in the failed president. Now, Your Excellency, my question goes on the issue of health. I have heard you mention in the plan something to do with Harambes. And as a young leader, and on behalf of the so many leaders who are here, and the people listening and watching us today, I am sure 90% of the people seated here today are in one WhatsApp group or another that has something to do with medical bills. I am sure some are actually being added in WhatsApp groups as we sit here. In our villages, Your Excellency, I am sure there are Harambes that are organized for this weekend for hospital bills that are in millions. Also, Your Excellency, we have so many people who are missing the basic right of mourning their deceased ones because they are struggling with hospital bills, bodies of their deceased ones being held in hospitals for months, some even for close to a year. Now, Your Excellency, my question is, as a Hustler government, as a Kenya Kwanza government, what plan do we have? Because some of these people already have NHIF cards, some of these people religiously pay for NHIF, but today they are struggling, especially with cancer and other chronic diseases. So can you give us an assurance that we will not have this kind of harambes, that people will have the freedom to at least not bother about struggling with hospitals to get bodies of their deceased ones? Asante sana.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Precisely the reason why we are discussing this matter. If NHIF was working, we wouldn't be having a discussion about this. We are having this discussion because NHIF, as it is not working. And that is why NHIF is not working for different reasons. Number one, NHIF as it is today has too many exclusions. They will tell you if you are suffering from cancer, you are excluded. If you are suffering from hypertension, you are excluded. If you are suffering from a terminal disease, you are excluded. Those are the exclusions we want to get rid of in our new plan. So that when you have the NHIF card, and for your information, it will be in, we have organized it in 3 layers. The primary service, which will be in up to level 3 hospital, will be paid for fully by public resources. We've also made sure that we turn it around. Today, many people before even any diagnosis, they go to a level 4 hospital. We want to make sure that we invest more in preventing, going to the dispensary, going to the health center, and making sure there is medical personnel at the health center and there is medicine at the health center. The reason why people do not go to the health centers, and in fact there is congestion in level 4 hospitals, is because there are no personnel in the dispensary. There is no medicine in dispensary. We want to make sure under this plan, and that is why we are saying we are going to have an integrated health management system that makes sure that every dispensary and every health center not only has staff, but also has medicine. If we did that, we would remove the congestion in Kenyatta National Hospital, because people with flu are now going to Kenyatta Hospital. People with minor injuries are going to big hospitals. So we want to remove the congestion, and that is the difference we are going to make by ensuring that we have a health management system that is integrated, and we also procure drugs in a manner that is going to give us leverage in terms of cost, and also ensure that the whole exercise is turned upside down. We do more of preventive and less of curative. At the moment, we are doing more curative and less preventive, and it's because of the structure of the current health provision system. Are we together? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. We have another question from that side. Okay, go ahead.
Your Excellency, my name is Njokiwa Madira. I come from Madira constituency. I'm also a university student at JKUAT. So the digital era has transitioned our physical classes into online classes.
Correct.
And one of the main challenges that you're having is access to affordable internet.
Good.
You've talked about, okay, the strategies that you have on how we shall close the internet connectivity gap, but will this internet be affordable? Will it be possible to have cheap bundles? Then another question is on government websites. The government websites, they don't provide adequate information. What's your plan on that? For instance, if you log into treasury.go.ke, you can't even understand the difference between the State Department of Planning and State Department of Finance. The last question is on Hustler Fund. You've promised to give us a Hustler Fund of at least 50 billion. Will this fund be accessible to university students? We want to do business. We want to be in a position to buy our own food and our own stuff. We don't want to request you for a campus feeding program. Yes.
First of all, we will make sure under the program we have on the merger, we'll make sure that you get enough scholarship to buy food. So you may not need the Hustler Fund to buy food in the university, because we will make it work. The problem at the moment is that the scholarship you are being given is way below the living amount that you require to stay in college. So that's why you have to hustle around to close the gap on food. We will make sure that that is closed by making sure that we deploy resources. We have actually undertaken that we will double the Higher Education Loans Board Fund, so that not just more students can access it, but you can access the full scholarship. Many people are on half scholarship and that kind of thing. That's number one. Number two, you have said whether the Hustler Fund will be available for even university students. We have said the Hustler Fund will be available for everybody who has an idea. In fact, we've said even the people who are working online, if you have developed an app and you need some money, there will be available crowdfunding, there will be available venture capital, there will be available. That Hustlers Fund will go all the way. In fact, we might ring-fence a percentage of the Hustler Fund to help people in the digital space, so that they can actualize their enterprises which are in the digital space. Bundles. If you go to a facility where internet is there is internet, you do not need bundles. You know, we will make sure that, you know, what we are trying to do is the same way we do a road to a place. That is, we want to do, that's why we are calling it the digital superhighway. We want to make it available for free in every market, in every school, in every hospital, in every, so long as there is connection to the grid, every place that's connected to grid, you will have internet available in that space. And it will be government funded. It will not be delivered by Safaricom. It will not be delivered by the telecom or the other facilities. It will be delivered by the government of Kenya.
Okay, we have a question from this side.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Susan Mwende from Runyenjes constituency. The national chairperson was Super Naruto. My question is, what is your Kenya Kwanza plan on fighting corruption? Secondly, myself and many other youths are on CLB listing. What is your plan?
You have heard me, my dear, loud and clear. We have said, as Kenya Kwanza, our strategy on fighting corruption is in depoliticizing and removing the weaponization of our criminal justice system. And instead, building those institutions, the capacity of those institutions, whether it is the DCI, whether it's the EACC, whether it's the entire police force, we want them to have an independent budget. We want them to control their budget the way they know how. We want them to investigate every incident without hindrance and without looking back and without anybody, telling them that if they go this way, they will not get funding. That is why we are removing, this office of the President Accounting Officer in charge of the police. We want the police to do their thing on their own. That is why we are saying the judiciary should have financial independence so that the judiciary can rule any way they want on any case without bothering whether they will get funding or not. That is our strategy on fighting corruption. And number two, you have had statements, political statements. Oh, we are going to have the COVID billionaires arrested in 20 days. We are going to jail corrupt people. Those are political statements. Anybody who is serious about fighting corruption should be building the institutions that fight corruption. As Kenya Kwanza, we want to build these institutions to the level where if the president is corrupt, the system will have him arrested and jailed. As simple as that. That's what happens. That's how the president of Korea was arrested and jailed. It's because the system worked. It is not the president wanted. It is not because the president decided. If it was the decision of the president, would you think she would have been arrested? So, a system where the president still can decide who is arrested and who is not arrested is not a system that works. It is as simple as that. Did I answer the other question? Yes. CRB. Wow. We have said that to alleviate the problem of CRB, maybe I can ask Mutua to say something about CRB. To elevate, let me do it fast. To elevate the problem on CRB, we have said that the challenge of CRB is that today, many of the people listed on CRB have borrowed money either from Shylocks and largely Fuliza and the other predatory lenders. In fact, we have said as Kenya Kwanza, we are going to, if you look at our manifesto, we have said that we are going to have a consumer protection mechanism so that predatory lenders that charge interest rates that are unreasonable and punitive are excluded from the financial market, so that too many people don't end up in CRB over credit or over loans that they acquired that have impossible interest rates. So we are also going to protect consumers, whether it is consumers of financial services or whether it's consumers of other items, to make sure that nobody takes advantage of the people of Kenya. Yes, Alfie?
You know, the problem we have in our country is that life is very difficult. Everything you try to do, there's a block. Somebody is always blocking you. There are documents to be filled. You cannot be able to get access to the youth fund. When you're going to fill youth fund documents, it's like filling out, even somebody with a PhD finds it very difficult to fill those documents. It's difficult. When you're going to get passports or other documents, it's difficult. Life in Kenya becomes very difficult. So one of the things that Kenya Kwanza wants to do is to make life simpler. When you make life simple, when you know you can access a youth fund, when you have other access of finance, then you do not find yourself in the quagmire of the CRB. And then also, we need to be in a country that is also realistic. When people get into business, especially young people, yes, they are going to default. There are going to be problems and a few problems. I have met people in Machakos and other places. People are just trying to be shoe shiners already in CRB. People are suffering. Watu, hakuna mtu yuko na simu moja siku hizi, kila mtu ana simu tatu. Anakuambia tuma kwa hii, usitume kwa hii, because it's all about Fuliza. So as Kenya Kwanza, and we've had the manifesto, it's about, as we lower the cost of living, we want to make the life of Kenyans bearable. You want to be able to wake up in the morning, go out, do your thing, work hard, and you will get a return at the end of the day, and unaweza enjoy. And that's where it comes down to. So hii shida ndogo ya CRB, hiyo itaenda wakati Kenya Kwanza itakuwa kwa ofisi.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have another question from this side.
Good evening, everyone. Your Excellency the Fifth, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Senator Ambrose Lasoi from Nakuru, and I am the Kenya Kwanza PWD Aspirants Chair. I have a question, and I'll take you back to Higher Educational Loan Board. I want to know the plan of Kenya Kwanza on the repayment of help, especially to scholars who don't have anything and they want to pursue their second level of their studies. And on this case, Your Excellency, we have persons with disabilities who want to continue with their education, especially on master's program. And I want to take that case on my example. I went to KU some 3 years ago, wanted to take my master's program, but they didn't offer me. But they directed me that the only program I was supposed to take on an outside country, that is Liverpool University, and they admitted me there. I have deferred 3 times. I cannot access help loan, I cannot access CDF, I cannot access any other scholarship. Why? Because the program is for persons who live with visual impairment or blind. I want to know, what is your plan as Kenya Kwanza to help persons with disabilities who don't have their programs in Kenya universities and maybe in the other outside countries? Thank you. And how are you going to pay the debts?
Thank you. First, we have, we have, as Kenya Kwanza, we have said, one, we are going to double the allocation to Higher Education Loans Board to remove the constraint of them trying to allocate scholarships. The constraint was how much money they had. With the increased allocation to Higher Education Loans Board, I am sure they might consider your application this time favorably. We have also undertaken as Kenya Kwanza that the interest charged on higher education loans will be waived. There will be no more interest paid. It is said that currently you have to pay 4%. We have said that 4% will be waived. The Higher Education Loans Board will be loans will be interest free. Senator, I hope I answered your question. Thank you very much.
Okay. One more question.
Your Excellency, my name is Lemayan. My name is Lemayan from Baringo South, Ilchamas community. My question is, I have two questions. One, what is the place of the minorities in your government? Having in mind, where I come from, Ilchamas community go towards in a county, but the number of times I've seen my governor launch projects there cannot be mentioned before this platform. Number two, what is your plan to pay the national debt when you take over that keeps rising? Thank you and may God bless you.
Thank you very much. On the issue of minorities, I think I will ask my good brother Moses Wetangula to say something on the minorities. And on the issue of debt, I'm going to say something and then I'm going to ask my good brother Musalia, who is a guru in that space, to tell us the how.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. First, I must salute you for your superb delivery this evening. I think it's succinctly clear. Now, any society, Kenya included, and more particularly Kenya Kwanza, will be judged on its performance in the manner it treats and handles its disadvantaged people. PWDs, minorities, our women who have been neglected for a long time by punitive laws, our youths who are discriminated, and so on. So Kenya Kwanza will have a deliberate, positive, affirmative action in every respect to ensure that those who have been left behind because of historical prejudices and injustices are lifted to a level where they feel proud being Kenyans. Whether you are an Ilchamus or James or whatever, in many places we come from counties where we have minority communities, either the migrant minorities or the minorities because their numbers don't match with the majority communities. We have enough law, we have enough provisions in the Constitution, and what has been lacking is the will to enforce and implement the law. Kenya Kwanza will have zero tolerance to discrimination of whatever form, in whatever manner, against anybody. And that is what we will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the subject of debt, you remember I said here we are 9 trillion shillings in debt. Our repayment this year is going to be more than 1 trillion shillings. And that's not a small matter. In fact, if we don't check on debt, shortly we will just be budgeting to pay debt. And that's it. So, as Kenya Kwanza, the plan we have here, you heard me specifically say 3 things. Create jobs or employment, expand the tax base, and grow tax revenue. That is the strategy of our plan. As we grow our agricultural sector, we are focused on growing revenue, tax revenue. We are actually focused on expanding the tax base. The 10 million people, we want to enable them to do business. Our idea is we want them to have money in their pockets so that they can buy goods and we can be able to get tax revenue. The strategy on digitization is to increase traffic in business so that we can get revenue. The strategy on manufacturing is so that we can do jobs, we can expand the tax base, and we can also increase tax revenue. So the whole strategy we have made here is supposed to increase our tax revenue. And finally, as Kenya Kwanza, and you have asked a very important question, we are targeting how we are going to get a quick return on the investments we are going to return from it, which means we can be able to invest elsewhere and pay our taxes and pay our debts. And finally, in the body of our manifesto, we have a strategy on how to take our tax revenue from 1.8 trillion to 3 trillion. Let me tell you how. At the moment, for example, we are collecting 52% of collectible VAT at the moment. In other words, we are collecting 3.6% of the collectible VAT. How are we going to do it? Rwanda, 5 years ago, went the digital way to digitize all their payments. They were at 4%, collecting VAT as a percentage of their GDP. They are now collecting 8%. South Africa is collecting 11%. Kenya is collecting 3.6%. So we will embark on a computerization and digitization process that currently cannot happen because of conflict of interest. It cannot happen today because there are people in big places who do not want to pay tax. They want to keep exempting themselves from paying this tax and paying that tax and paying the other tax. So our position as Kenya Kwanza is that we are going to digitize especially the collection of VAT and the whole space of our economy. By so doing, I promise you, we will collect another 450 billion that today we are not collecting. And if we collect another 450 billion, we will again collect another 150 billion that we are not collecting on corporate tax. So we can easily, just by doing computerization, we can move our tax revenues. And I want to commit to the people of Kenya that in 3 years, we should be at 3 trillion. President Mwai Kibaki showed us that it is possible to drive your revenue collection. He did it fourfold, almost fivefold. We can double, at the very least, revenue in 5 years. That will give us more space for us not only to retire debt, because for your information, 70% of the debt we have is domestic debt. We borrowed from banks here. That's why ordinary business people cannot be given money by banks. Why would a bank risk giving a trader money when they have free money from the government? Because if government is giving you 12, 13%, why are you going to lend to Washira? and with all the risks. That's why the private sector is starved of financing today, because government is borrowing domestic. So our strategy is to grow our tax base so that we increase our tax revenues, and also close loopholes and digitize so that we can collect all collectible revenues, especially VAT and corporate tax. That way we will have not only resources to run our affairs, but we will also have resources to retire our debt. And lastly, as I said here, we are already in a hole. So the first thing we will do is to stop digging. If you read the newspaper, yesterday, it said we are borrowing 2.5 billion shillings every day. So the hole is still, so we'll stop digging first. I will ask my good brother Musalia to say the balance.
Yeah. Thank you, Ndugu Deputy President. I just want to pick up from where you have touched, to stop digging. One of the critical areas is to make sure that the programs we are talking about are within the confines of a balanced budget, so that we can cut down on the desire or the appetite to borrow. The Deputy President has given examples of how we can grow revenue, but on the other side, we must make sure that we start working towards curtailing these huge budget deficits that we have, so that we can tame this issue that we call debt. And he has given you
our plan.
The profile. You have the domestic debt, and then you have the external debt. Both have inherent risks. The domestic debt cripples the economy, cripples lending, and so forth. The external debt can also put you into a lot of difficulty when the exchange rate is in trouble, and we are beginning to see a bit of that now. The central bank is rationing foreign exchange, and we are beginning to see our importers beginning to have trouble in getting raw materials for their factories. So we have to work on that basis. But I want to assure you, and the Kenyans who are listening, that there is also honor in making sure that you settle your obligations. So we as a Kenya Kwanza government will make sure that we honor our obligations, because these are sovereign debt. They may have been entered into difficult situations, but primarily we must be a country that pays its debt. And as Kenya Kwanza, we intend to do just that. Finally, let me highlight that within the Kenya Kwanza fraternity, there is Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi. Sakwa Bunyasi is seeking to be governor of Busia. He is an economist. He has worked with the World Bank. And Sakwa Bunyasi has actually brought a bill which was deliberately delayed until Parliament has gone into Sine Die, which was to tackle the issue of transparency and better risk assessment and management of our public debt. When we take over, we will make sure that that bill finds its way to the floor of the House. And just something that the Il Chamos young man mentioned, I wish to remind you, maybe you are not there, that we went with the Deputy President Ruto to Baringo, and we were guests at a gathering of the minorities, the Lchemos, and it's good to also note that in the Deputy President's office, he has an officer who is dedicated to looking into the issues of the minorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There will be a
Maybe
question.
we can
Thank
take
you.
another two or so questions.
And in succession, please.
Yeah, we would like to ask 3 questions from this side, so you will get all of them, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Jane Putunoi from Laikipia County. I have 3 questions, and thank you very much because you have presented very well your manifesto.
Sorry, Jen, kindly just ask once. We give a chance to the others, please.
Okay. So I have 1 question, or 2. Yes. 1, I've heard you talk about tourism, but I've not heard you talk about conservation tourism that is being dependent so much by the people from the north.
The second one?
The second one is about the large, what is your policy or our government policy about the land that is being owned by individuals, big chunk of land that is being owned by individuals. The other issue, and the last one, Your Excellency, is about the port. We have heard stories that the port is already gone. What is your...
Excellency, just before you answer, please take this.
I'm Kellen Karemi from Meru County, and my question was to our 5th President. What's your plan to separate the powers between the 3 bodies, the Parliament, Judiciary, and Executive? It's a request, Mr. President, for now I can call you Mr. President, about mental health. You see, in our forces, police are killing others, and even in our homestead, there are so many homicides. I would request that all institutions, when you take this government, that you employ at least 5 psychologists in all institutions, schools, colleges, and police, maybe forces, at least to help them to have coping skills for mental health issues. Thank you.
And finally, from this side.
Thank you very much. Good evening, all of you. I really appreciate how our 5th President has paraphrased everything. My question is on, you are in Mandera the last 2 weeks, and there is a question we also ask you on matters of security, like extrajudicial killing. That was the agenda we have talked about the whole night, and you are aware. And one as Kenya Kwanza, I am also a candidate, MP candidate Mandera West, but when I go back, my people will ask me on matters of security that was discussed on national TV. So I need to make it clear so that my people will understand these things on air, that matters of extrajudicial killing, where our people, where our people just disappear within an air. We cannot find our colleagues for the last several years. And in the end, we found them in forest and other places. So I want to ask Kenya, what is our question? The other issue on the Hustler Fund, please, Hustler Fund on 50 billion. My people would like to benefit on that fund. And of course, what is as Muslims or as our religion, we are not allowed to take interest. Is it a free interest, or is there interest in that billion? Even we are learning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will make the Hustler Fund Sharia compliant. So you don't have to worry about that. And we are actually going to make sure that it is devolved and it will be operationalized at every ward It will not even be at the county. It will not be at the constituency. The Hustler Fund operating unit will be at the ward so that many people can have access to it. So your people, your great people will have access. I know you are worried about your people. So let me ask J.B. Muturi to tell us about the separation of powers. Somebody has asked here about the issue of the legislature and how we are going to work around that. I will ask Rigathi Gachagua to tell us something to answer the question on the police and homicides and that kind of thing and what needs to be done. I will ask and also maybe you can also take up the question of I think that was answered. We actually said that Kenya Kwanza will end extrajudicial killings. Number one. Number two, we will go further. We will establish in law a Coroner General Office that will make sure that complaints against people who disappear are investigated. And those who make those people disappear, whether they are security agencies, are held to account, or whether it is any other person. So I think on that issue we have. I will also ask Anne Waiguru to tell us something about conservation tourism, which is one of the issues there. And then I will ask Moses Kuria to say something about the port, and then I will ask Alice to tell us about, she knows our strategy on compensation of absentee landlords and the commitments we have made. So, and Alice Wahome. So let us start with I think we start with Alice. Can we start with you, Alice? Huh? Oh, JP. Oh, sorry. Sorry, no, it's okay. It's okay, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Your Excellency. On absentee landlords, and there are many, and especially in our coastal regions, and even some areas here in Nairobi and elsewhere, I have interacted with some of our proposals from the regions regarding the subject, and the proposals and solutions also being offered from the people themselves is that the government can take up a very quick, in-depth, detailed audit so that we can establish where these landlords are, if they exist, the amount of land by way of acreage that is held by the so-called absentee landlords, and then the government will take stock of that. Most of the times, the solution given by the people themselves is that the government can buy the land and redistribute to the people at the cost of government, because there is a cost to the land staying idle. We are not farming on it, we are not doing any economic activities on it, and therefore the question of even paying lease fees is not sufficient. We would rather utilize the land. I hope that answers to some extent.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alice. I think the question has been ably answered by Alice. The commitment we have made as Kenya Kwanza is that we are going to buy 1 million acres of the absentee landlords' farms and make it available for settlement by people who are currently living as squatters. It is not right. 50 years after independence that we have Kenyans living as squatters. The same way that we did at independence, this is another moment where we are going to spend public resources to buy land and settle Kenyans who are living as squatters. I think that is, with clarity, our intention. And this was brought mainly by the people from the coast region. But I can see it is spread elsewhere. JB Muturi can now respond to the issue of the management of the separation of powers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and the questioner. I want to begin by saying that Kenya is not unique in practicing a system where there is the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. But we become unique in how the three arms relate. I want to begin by appreciating the commitment that Kenya Kwanza has made, and if you read through the entire document, about this issue of separation of powers. His Excellency has already stated categorically that we'll operationalize the judiciary fund so that the judiciary does not have to keep looking behind their backs to know what decisions to make in which disputes. Indeed, Kenya Kwanza, in this manifesto, has committed to strengthening the Chapter 15 commissions, both financially and operationally. That speaks to the respect, the high respect that Kenya Kwanza intends to give to the whole gamut of the subject of separation of powers. I'm aware that many people are quite apprehensive, Your Excellency, because the President is elected through a political party and will have members of Parliament who, as you have seen, tend to be sometimes swayed to vote in a particular way. But I want to state that the commitment that has been made by His Excellency the Deputy President with regard to operationalization of the independence of various institutions is commitment sufficient enough to ensure that there will be no question of anybody saying that this one is extending their mandate to the functions of the other. But it is also something that we cannot run away from, the fact that His Excellency has a range of policy matters contained in this document, which will require legislation. Legislation will be originated from various government ministries, but it goes to Parliament. His Excellency the President, as we believe is going to be, has committed it is up to Parliament to go and debate, because the members of his party know the commitments that we have made to the people of Kenya, so that the policies are implemented through legislation. That should not be seen as interfering with the operations of Parliament. Parliament will still have its own way. But remember, whatever laws that Parliament will pass also to be ascended to in order to become law by the President. But I want to give a commitment, as His Excellency has stated, that this manifesto, if you read through, you will see the high commitment, the heavy commitment about the rule of law and the separation of powers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, JB. Very well put. We are believers in building institutions. Kenya Kwanza does not believe in personality cults. We believe in institutions. We will promote and respect Parliament as an institution. We will promote and respect the judiciary as an institution. because it is only by so doing that we can build institutions strong enough to support the kind of program that we want. And I was once told that the best way to support an institution is to criticize it when it goes wrong. So we will be open to criticism from any quarter. And we will also point out to other institutions when we see they are not doing the right thing. And that is the nature of democracy. But we will ensure that every institution has what it takes to discharge their mandate in accordance with the Constitution. Let me request Anne Waiguru to speak to us on the subject of, we spoke about tourism and the products we want to change. Maybe you can say something about conservation tourism.
Thank you, Your Excellency. On conservation tourism and generally on the tourism sector, you have heard at this point in time we have been stuck at about 2.5 or so million tourists coming to the country, and also we have a limitation in the advancement of local tourism. And our conversation is not just limited to conservation tourism, which I would understand you meant conservation of wildlife, but also we have conservation of our natural resources, of our wetlands, of our forests, and these are sectors that we would want to explore with regard to tourism. But broadly, even beyond that, we would want our tourism sector to expand to focus on other things: adventure tourism, agricultural tourism. For example, if you go to South Africa, their largest contributor to tourism in South Africa is actually tourism to the wine farms. We have coffee farms, we have farms that grow rice and etc. So what is the strategy? The strategy is to provide incentives that make it possible for people to provide services that will encourage people to go and tour and participate in those areas. Like, for example, in your area where we're talking about the Savo, or if it's the areas where we have wildlife, the government would provide security, ensure that those people who are coming for tourism in that area feel secure enough to go and explore. But we also will provide incentives as the government to small businesses, individuals, and communities that organize this tourism in their areas, giving them incentives on the revenue that they get, ensuring that they have enough tax incentives so that they are willing to put up structures similar, allow me to use the word without necessarily branding, to use the structures like the Airbnb that young people used to book. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you will go and stay in a 5-star hotel, but communities can provide accommodation, for example, where you go and experience how that community lives, how they interact with the wildlife, how they interact with their community, how they conserve their communities, their way of life and their culture. So that incentive structure and ensuring that there is adequate security, and also providing incentives so that communities that are not very well off can provide for the middle and lower class to be able also to go for these tourism excursions, so that instead of spending 10,000 shillings a night, we can have groups, whether it's from university, young people, people from our communities leaving our counties and going to, let's say, the county in like Kipia, and the young people are secured, they are sure that the government is providing adequate security when they go, for example, live with the community, camp out there, find these facilities, because there will be internet. Some of the things that this internet is going to help us do is that those people will be able to market the services that they provide, so that you know that they exist, so that you can actually book them and go there. So all these are interrelated with the provision of also the last mile internet connectivity and whatever it is that is going in the tourism sector. Allow me, Your Excellency, to just add one thing on another issue that I think we discussed, and I just want to draw an interlinkage with the issue of debt repayment. Right now we have a problem, a shortage of the foreign exchange. And I just thought it's important that we mention that when you talk about the agricultural sector, and you say that you're going to increase the production, say, of rice. Right now, the importation of rice, wheat and palm oil, the amount of money that we use to import is about 25% of the foreign exchange that we use foreign exchange that we get in exportation. If we grow the agricultural sector, I just want to show the linkages. If we increase the production of rice in Mwea, for example, from the current 110 metric tons to, let's say, 220,000 metric tons, you will have enough foreign exchange freed that can go to the contribution of the payment of. So I just thought it's important that I mention that, so that people know that this plan, the Kenya Kwanza, but also improving the cost of living and contributing greatly to economic growth. Thank you.
Very well put, Anne. What Anne is saying is we are spending 25 billion shillings to import rice. If we grew that rice here, we wouldn't need the foreign exchange to import it. It's as simple as that. And that 25 billion shillings will be available to our farmers. It is as simple as that. And that's what Kenya Kwanza is saying. So we will not only be saving our foreign exchange, which we are using currently to import products that we can grow, but we will also be putting money in our farmers' pockets. That is the plan of Kenya Kwanza. So we are doing three things in one. We are growing jobs, we are growing our tax base, and we are saving on foreign exchange. So that's really the big plan. I think I didn't communicate it properly, and that's why Anne was trying to help me. So that's good. Can we listen to my good brother, our deputy captain? You have two issues, the police homicide and we have security killings.
Thank you, Your Excellency. First and foremost is to congratulate you on your very able delivery of our agenda. Umecheza kama wewe. Secondly, is to confirm to the people of Kenya that what our leader has delivered today is a culmination of a consultative process with the people of Kenya, and all the issues that have been proposed here are a product of the priorities raised by the people of Kenya. And indeed, even the police interventions is a very wide consultative process with the police, chini ya maji, because if they talk to us in the public, they would have been sacked. So all the interventions that have been made here has been a very wide consultative process. We have very serious homicides across the country and security breakdown because, first and foremost, the police service is demoralized. For the last 10 years, nobody has bothered about the police. The last time their allowances and their salaries were reviewed was the time of President Mwai Kibaki. Yet, the cost of living has really hit our police officers to an extent that in the police lines, every month, There are policemen shooting each other or killing themselves because of depression. The policemen, we must empathize with them because they feel very bad because they have been totally misused and nobody has bothered to think about them. Monies meant for criminal intelligence by the DCI has been held at the office of the president by the accounting officer, and this is money that now will be free once we get an accounting officer for the police service, for the National Police Service. They'll have money for criminal intelligence. There is a fund at the office of the president controlled by the accounting officer there. That fund for the last 5 years is what has been diverted to fund the BBI, to fund the Azimio campaign, and build hotels for that accounting officer across the country. And this is money now that will be available to the police, and that will create an enhanced efficiency. Because it is money that is confidential, it is not audited, it is not accounted, and the police can use it to buy information. So we want to assure the people of Kenya that the police themselves, by the way, let us understand them. In fact, they are willing to be good people. This money they collect on the road, they collect because sometimes they have no food. Sometimes they say they are told to escort money from a bank, 200 million, and themselves they don't have 10 shillings in the pocket. Sometimes being human beings can be very tempting. So we are saying that within the first 100 days, we will review their terms of service, pay them well, and in return they have agreed. In return they have agreed to reciprocate and be good people, so that we can have a friendly police service, like we have in the first world, where the police protect business, not harass business. We are giving an example, and many people think it's not doable, that in the fullness of time, after we review their terms and we agree with them that they need to change their attitude, that Kenyans are not their enemies, they need to protect them, their life and property. We will reach a situation in a year or so where when the police officers find you at night on your way home, probably you have taken 1 or 2 to try to get some sleep. If they put you in a Land Cruiser, they don't take you to the police station, they take you home to your wife. That is the situation we are looking at. And we want to assure our police officers and the prison warders that their cry has been heard by the Kenya Kwanza principles. And even among the recommendations that shall be implemented is their request that all non-commissioned officers, that is senior sergeant downwards up to the constable, at the age of 50, if they want, they will be allowed to serve in their home counties so that they can prepare for retirement. So we are looking at a good situation progressively, where we allow the police to do what they are paid to do, and they are saying, even the police themselves, they feel bad that they have been misused to arrest people who have committed no crime, to plant evidence on people who have done nothing, and they are saying once they get the financial independence, they will be able to operate freely and independently. And finally, on the public service, we want to assure our civil servants across the country, their cry has been heard about career progression, that officers would want career civil servants to rise from the point of entry to the highest level in the civil service, including being the head of the public service. Because they cry that they are demoralized, because they don't grow beyond a certain position. Other people come from the private sector and then they stagnate at certain grades. So we want to assure the public service that your time is now, work hard, stay focused, and you can grow from an assistant secretary cadet all the way to a principal secretary. You can grow from an accountant to the accountant general. You can grow from an assistant engineer to the chief engineer roles. So once that is settled, I think our public service will be well motivated and their morale will be boosted and will have productivity for the people of Kenya. And we are asking the public service that the people of Kenya want less and less government into people's lives and more services to the people of Kenya. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you very much. I think I have nothing useful to add, except to say that we will also free the public service from being political or from being used politically. We will want a professional public service that serves all Kenyans irrespective of their political affiliation. And we will run our politics as politicians and use politicians to run our politics and allow chiefs, assistant chiefs, county commissioners, assistant county commissioners, regional commissioners to serve all Kenyans equally. The current situation where these public officers are being abused and used, sometimes against their own will, to run political errands will come to an end. Political errands will be run by politicians. The public service will deliver services to Kenyans, government services to Kenyans, fairly, without political undertones. I think we have answered all the questions.
Port.
Kuria.
Port.
About the port.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for asking me the most controversial question. But I'm sure you have asked me because you are aware that I was fired as a vice chair of the Transport Committee because of asking questions.
Yeah, I knew you were in the Transport
related
Committee.
to our transport and infrastructure sector, which is one of the sectors that has been bedeviled by an animal known as state capture. It started with the takeover of our ports, berths number 20 and 21 in the port of Mombasa, and giving it to a foreign company by the name of Mediterranean Shipping Company. We were promised that we will get 10,000 seafarers trained and hired by that company. After it was given away, not a single job, not a single Kenyan has been hired for these jobs. We saw it further with a skewed budgetary allocation. When we talk about moving the port of Mombasa to Naivasha, to private land of some people, that is the epitome of state capture. We saw it further in the aviation industry, which you have touched on. The attempts to merge Kenya Airways with Kenya Airport Authority and creating a behemoth that was supposed to create a big enough balance sheet for some people to be able to continue leasing their aircraft to Kenya Airways, which we know. So I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is that it's true that there are reports that the port is gone. The Honorable Musalia Mudavadi and the team elaborated on this yesterday, and only then did our Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury attempt to respond to it. So I have reasons to believe that the port is gone. That's the bad news. But the good news is that within the first 7 days of the Kenya Kwanza administration, we shall reverse all that. And we shall institute investigations into all the market deals, including registering companies abroad and pretending that they are foreign owned. We are going to lift the veil of incorporation to identify the ultimate beneficial owners of these companies, including the so-called local partner for the Nairobi Expressway, which you know which you know very well, there are people, it is done by people who are in this government who accuse other people of corruption, and they pretend to be cleaner than Caesar's wife, but they are actually rotten and they are mired in corruption. So I want you to ask Your Excellency, ukishindwa na mtu wa kufanya hiyo kazi, niachia watu mtanyorosha. And let me touch on something that slightly unrelated. Somebody asked about the Hustlers Fund, which is very close to my heart. And somebody asked whether this fund is going to be available for people in Northeastern and our Muslim brothers. Within the Kenya Kwanza team, economic team, we've got a certain experts, one with 20 years local and international experience on banking matters and financial matters, and two who is also an expert in Islamic banking, who is going to work to ensure that even our Muslim brothers access this fund. And that gentleman is known as Moses Kuria. Thank you very much.
And it's not a joke that Moses Kuria actually is an expert in Islamic banking, because he has been in the banking industry and is worthy professional in that field. So I think we have made we have answered all the questions. We have already committed ourselves to ensuring that all the port operations that were removed from Mombasa on day one, we are going to reverse and make sure all port operations go back to Mombasa. That commitment we have already made.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. The questions still won't stop coming, but I think we have to come to bring this to a close. And we should have, I think, the next few days to read the manifesto, then ask more questions from an informed position. Okay? But there's still one, I'll just ask. It's okay, it's okay. I'll just ask three more burning questions. One from there.
Good evening. Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is George Mwangi. I'm a freelance photojournalist based here in Nairobi. My question is, what's your plan for the film sector and filmmakers as a whole?
Okay. Your Excellency, if you allow me, I'll follow up with two more. One from a lady up here who says, you mentioned of the plan to organize the big percentage of the uncollected plastic waste. My question is, what project will Kenya Kwanza bring to make use of all this plastic waste? Current problems with current solutions. And then there's another question on, actually this is from online. Amran from Sunderland says, you mentioned, how do we expand Kenya's economic and commercial interests abroad as part of broadening foreign exchange? Bearing in mind, also, President Biden has also talked about bottom-up. And then there's a question from CI, I think. Okay, we'll get you the microphone finally. We'll get you the microphone. We have to bring this to a close. We'll get you the microphone. And there's one more here. It's actually a compliment, Your Excellency.
Okay.
From Mandos. This is somebody we were with in the Nairobi Economic Forum. And Mandos is actually saying he's very happy. You can stand, Mandos, so that people see you. Mandos, and I was a witness. Mandos is actually saying he's very happy because his proposal on solid waste management has made it to the manifesto. And this is what we mean when we say this is a people-driven process and it's a manifesto that has been authored by the people. Your Excellency, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Eric Omondi, popularly known as Mandos. Going by my second name, it's obvious that I'm good in English, but I'll choose a language that will communicate to both the audience and the people I represent here. During the Economic Forum for Nairobi, I was invited by the Honorable Governor, Mr. Sachs there, and with my team from Nairobi, we laid out a very, very great program on how solid waste can be managed in this country. Today, I've got the belief, because even the incoming president told the incoming governor to stand up so that people can understand what he means
by goodwill of the people who deal with solid waste. On that part, I say thank you very much, Chief Hustler.
Thank you, Mandos. I remember you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember. On the matter of the film, as we wait for the other person to ask the question there, you've asked me about the film industry, what we're going to do about it. First, we will make sure that we will expedite the passage of the Creative Economy Bill. That Creative Economy Bill will actually give us the film fund, because therein, in the Creative Economy Bill, we have built in a fund. That fund will now make it possible for the film industry in Kenya, first, to ensure that you can have access to modern equipment. You can borrow money, hire, buy modern equipment to build our film industry. You can also, using the bill, it speaks to reviewing policies and charges across counties so that filmmakers are not charged levies and fees in this county and in the next county when they are making their films. We have also established a green channel for filmmakers who want to make their way to Kenya, because there have been impediments on matters to do with their equipment being confiscated at the airport, them not being allowed, being charged huge levies and fees. We are going to review all that so that it makes it much more easy for filmmakers to find their way to Kenya. Because in any case, once they are doing their filming in Kenya, they hire our staff, they eat our food, they sleep in our hotels, they spend their money here. I think that's a bigger benefit than the little fees we have imposed on filmmakers coming to Kenya. So, using the bill, my good brother, we will establish a film ecosystem that is going to make sure that filmmakers have the best environment to deliver on good quality products at rates that are reasonable. There was a question on?
I think that's it. That's it. I mean, thank you.
You asked me something else on...
On foreign policy. Yeah?
On?
Siaya. Siaya was enough. But
sorry.
Foreign policy, yes. Okay, let's try and get them a microphone.
Okay, let's get... there's a person called Siaya. Okay, gentleman is there.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Hussein, I want to appreciate you and His Excellency the President. I'm Vitalis Ochieng. I'm from Ahero, a candidate for Ahero Ward, Nyando constituency, Kisumu County. I just had one concern over the production of agriculture. For one, in Kisumu or in Nyando, we are dying. One, we are having factories, sugar factories like Chemelil. We have Moroni and Miwani, which died long ago. I would wish to request or ask if what plan as the Kenya Kwanza we have for these factories, because the life is terrible. Even if somebody may think that Kisumu is okay, but Kisumu is no more. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question.
Asante sana. Baba, mimi kwa majina naitwa Bernard Odinga, mimi ni candidate huko Rarieda constituency. Na mimi ni mfupi pia. Sisi kazi yetu ni kufua samaki baba. Kwa ajenda zako hatujasikia tutapata usaidizi namna gani kule Siaya. Kwa sababu baba, unaona mambo ya lake. Sisi tunateswa kule vibaya sana na watu wa Uganda. Hatuna security. Katika serikali yetu hii ya Kenya Kwanza, tutapata usaidizi namna gani baba? Baba, jambo la pili.
Okay.
Nataka kusema tena baba, sisi ni watoto wako kutoka Siaya. Wakati ulikuwa Kisumu nilikuuliza kuja Siaya, ulisema after December. Bado ninakuomba sasa kama candidate yako. Tafadhali, tuko Siaya, tuko na governor Siaya, tuko na women rep Siaya, tuko na makandidate wako wengi Siaya. Baba, kuja Siaya, hata kama ni kura moja tutakupea bwana.
Thank you very much, my good brother. We have a whole chapter on our interventions in the blue economy. And the blue economy, we are, number one, we are establishing the whole blue economy ecosystem.
Uko na watu wengi Siaya.
Hawa bwana Bernard. Pero kamano. So, my good brother Bwana Omondi, the last time we were in the economic forum in Kisumu, you remember very well the subject of the blue economy, what we need to do about interventions in the fishing industry, the kind of fishing gear, the cages, the cage production of fish, and we undertook that we are going to have a comprehensive plan on the blue economy that will leverage on the competitive edge that we have as a country and deploy even the Hustlers Fund to make sure that fishermen and people in that industry not only have access to cold rooms, but also processing facilities for our fish so that we can add value and stop selling our fish raw. So I think we have a plan there. And on your request that I visit Siaya, definitely I will visit Siaya. Definitely. I think we're done. So, good people. Oh yeah. On the interventions on Chemelil, Mohoroni, and Miwani. Let me tell you, what I said about Mumias and Nzoia applies to also those 3 other sugar mills because they are government-owned sugar mills. We will not only write off government debt, but we will also negotiate with all the other stakeholders who have loans, whether they are banks or the other institutions, so that we can pay off those debts, get the sugar mills free of debt, and now begin the journey to make them productive once again the same way the other private sugar mills are productive. That is the strategy we have so that we can continue to enhance the incomes of sugarcane farmers as we do for all the other farming communities.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I think we should bring it to a close now. And we'll have more of such sessions moving forward, hopefully, to talk more about our manifesto and the policies therein. I want to invite Honorable Rigathi Gachagua and Honorable Fatuma Achani as we help the Deputy President now present what we call the plan to the people of Kenya, the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. Okay, hold it. Yeah. A round of applause.
So check. Yes, sound check. Yes. Wapi makofi na vigelegele. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto on behalf of the all Kenyans.
And the manifesto is being presented to the people. Some of the people that participated in the bottom-up forums, the hustlers. We have Shosho Elizabeth and Saruni.
DJ. Tafadhali nikaomba tutulie baada ya kupeana.
Hatimaye ni leo, ni siku yetu.
Jakoya is still here with us. Justina Wangoi my Roots Party presidential team are with us here. One of the only 4 who have been cleared by IBC to run for the state biggest top job. Let's see some of your feedback and the questions you're asking here on JK Live. Let's bring that up and pose some of them. Joseph Mayani says, kindly ask them if they have other aspirants like governors, senators, MP and MCA vying with Roots Party. Quick reaction to that.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
We have not seen any of them being
No, we don't. What happened actually is our scrutiny method was so rigorous. A lot of them were disqualified at the primary level, just like I was disqualified when I was running for Member of Parliament for Tottenham after the death of Barney Grant in UK. I was disqualified at the primary level just because I was not married, but I had children. They wanted to see a real certificate of marriage. We have applied the same method in Roots, and that's why we didn't care. People came in or have money, and we looked at them. There's a questionnaire for them to fill in, which was actually in tandem with Chapter 6. So if you didn't answer us, just go. So we are, I think, the only party which has really scrutinized our candidates, and we have very few.
And we didn't eat their money for free. We know many the political parties make you pay party fees, and they don't give you the ticket. So us, we are very transparent. We told them, come for the interview. You will pay us your money once you're successful.
Yeah.
So that sets us apart.
But we haven't seen anyone being cleared by IBC.
Really? You
no,
haven't?
We have, all of our candidates have been cleared. Right now we have Naran, Asian, running in
Mugumoine, yes.
Then we have Arjun, another Asian, running in Parklands. We have another one. We have several, but not those who came with money or party hopping, running from this party to this party, that. Why we told them, excuse me, goodbye. And we are good with that because we don't have sleepless nights. We are sleeping well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring out some of your more feedback coming through on JK Live. Let's squeeze in as many of them as we can here. We have Lloyd Onyango. Says, ask Professor Wajakoya about what he knows about Robert Uko's murder and who was after him when he sought asylum in the UK. Why does he feel safer in Kenya now that when he left? Let's keep that and go to the next one because that will be mostly about speculation. Let's take a look at the next conversation that comes in. Erastus Mwanzia says, how is my president going to tackle the issue of high cost of living of consumer goods? You already answered that earlier on. Let's see another one that comes through here and bring in at JK Live. That's a question that you're posing. Patrick Chahasi says, when Professor Wajakoya says he will suspend the constitution for 6 months, what will happen to the judiciary system? Will they be working for the said 6 months?
Definitely we have rules. We already have the system. We have the process. The process will continue. And what we are talking about is we are asking Kenyans to really look into the constitution as we continue the process. So whatever is wrong, they remove it and we move on.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's not just about the judiciary. There's also the National Police Service that comes with that.
Yes.
How do you intend to deal with that entire system?
Yes, as a former police officer, and first of all I have to thank men and women in uniform, especially the police and the Kenya Army, the armed forces. Of course, their salaries will go up. When it comes to the police, it has become a very unfortunate situation. Kenya police is the only police in the entire world that whose interests are not taken seriously by anybody. Number one, I having been one, and I'm speaking on behalf of every policeman in this country, you'll find out that a graduate police constable today who has taken a loan from HELP and a graduate police inspector today who has also taken a loan from HELP, they earn 2 different salaries. A graduate police constable earns a constable's salary and a graduate police inspector earns an inspector's salary. And both of them have a duty and obligation to repay the loan. You tell me the answers on that one. Secondly, if you look at the welfare of the police officers in this country, it is pathetic. How do you expect a police officer in Nairobi to live in a house of 15,000 a month? Recently, a police sergeant was killed in a very muty servant quarter in Nairobi South Sea. The guy who was actually manning routes or what have you. People don't care about the police. You'll find out a whole governor, a prospective governor in Kakamega, Governor Malala, gubernatorial candidate Malala, telling the police that their work is only to do what? to hold guns and anyone can shoot. You expect that man to be my governor? I am going to Kakamega to campaign because that's where I come from. Police interest in this country should be taken very seriously, and anyone who abuses the police in this country, that person will be taken to court, just like it is in the UK. In the UK and US, where I've also worked for many, many years as a lawyer, if you point a finger at the police officer who is in the process of arresting a victim, you'll be, and probably the firearm is discharged and the person is killed, you are the one to be indicted for murder. So when it comes to the police, you look at the way they are, look at the Chinese uniforms that they have been given. I am banning them on the 9th of August once I become the president. And because the police officers were not consulted. The police officers were not consulted as per the Constitution as to whether they wanted those uniforms or not. They look like why? The same uniforms, if you go to Shanghai in China or any other city in China, you'll find the Chinese putting on the same uniform. So is Lusaka. Does it mean that somebody in President Uhuru Kenyatta's government went in bed with the Chinese, formed up a bilateral agreement to come and do what they have done to the police without asking them?
Okay.
I'm speaking for the police.
Okay.
The police will be remunerated well, just like journalists, teachers, and what have you. And the members of the Fourth Estate, who are also very minimally paid in this country. Yet they do a very big task being members of the Fourth Estate. Okay. They are not given equipment. You'll find a journalist with cameras in a matatu going to cover somewhere.
Okay.
On his own expense. They will also be paid, and they will become stakeholders in whatever organizations that they want.
All right. Justina, there's a question here about how do you intend to regulate this usage of marijuana? Because there's a perception that this will be a free-for-all, where everybody will just be smoking on the streets.
Trevor, let me speak quickly about the police. When the police are well remunerated, the fight on corruption will be real. Our police will not be bribed with very little money, so they're going to aid us in fighting corruption. But about controlling marijuana, Kenyans, we need to open up our minds. Marijuana has two components. CBD, which gives us industrial hemp or fiber, and THC, which gives you the psychoactive ingredient. What we are focusing on as it is the CBD component, the fiber. But as it is, those who are smoking right now are smoking THC, which is readily available, Trevor. People, if you want to smoke, if you're a smoker, you can get it in 2 minutes, you get it. So when we plant the CBD of it, the CBD component, how are we going to distinguish it? CBD has 0.3% of THC. So even if you chew it, it's only going to give you a detox in your body. But THC is supposed to have more than 0.3% to 30%. That one actually we're going to tell Kenyans, if you think you're going to be smart, we have outsmarted you, because you're going to bring back the agricultural officers who used to inspect tea and coffee. They will be coming in your farms to ensure that you're planting what routes government has indicated or has stipulated. So when we are controlling, of course, the seed is the CBD. Agricultural officers are going to be there. KEFIS is going to give us the seed that we want as roots government. So already it's controlled. And I'm underpinning, even if you take a leaf today of CBD, the one we are growing, it can only give you, detox you. It does not have any highness effect. So planting the right seed clearly shows you how we are going to distinguish. And we are going to, by the way, arrest those people who are thinking they're going to be smart. If the agricultural officer finds you with the THC, we're going to deal with you. Because we do not want to lead a stoned country, a sick country. We only want Kenyans to have the real pesa mfukoni. We are explaining to Kenyans where we are going to get our money.
All right. Let me bring some the more feedback. Let's squeeze in as many of them as we can as we wind up on this conversation. You don't leave a name, but he says, please ask Professor George Wajakoya and Justina Wangoi if they use cannabis. If they do, ask them how are they going to govern the country if they use it. I think that's what you've just explained, because you don't want to talk to you.
No, but we didn't answer whether we are using. We've never, personally, I've never used, and Prof, we don't use it. We are not focusing on the smoking, guys. We're focusing on the hemp, industrial hemp, and the fiber.
Yeah.
Yes.
Prof, there's a very big misconception between what you're talking about and what the people seem to understand. Now there's a direct question there. Have you smoked weed?
Never smoked. but I'll smoke it on the day I will be sworn in, to exorcise the demons from State House, where Kenyatta was buried, Parliament and KICC. Those colonial demons that remained, they will be, I'll spark around there to remove them so that we can have a corrupt-free country.
Let me answer one of our competitors.
Yes.
In the morning, they said that those who are propelling the marijuana agenda look like they smoke. Clearly, we are doing better than you. You're telling us you're going to give us 6,000. From where? You're going to increase taxes? And so you people know that even if we don't look the part, clearly our agenda is out there. We are telling Kenyans we won't increase taxes, we won't borrow debt. So Kenyans really, it's for you to decide who cares about
and that's Edwin Sifuna, a whole secretary general of a party, looking at me and saying, I look like a... Come on, Sifuna, you don't know who I am. You say it about me, I don't like pointing figures, but shame on you.
All right, you said, let's get the next question and see what you're saying on Twitter here. Rose Flo says, ask Professor George Wajakoya and Justina Wangoi how they met.
Okay, so there's this time my husband Alex sent me a photo of Prof. He was wearing Gideon boots and a t-shirt on Facebook. That was the very first time we hadn't met. But Ruth circulated an advert. They were looking for a running mate. Ruth is very, very transparent. And I sent in my CV. When I sent it, and by the way, that CV was, I had done it in 2018. I had applied for a PS position after elections. So that's the same CV that I gave Prof. I gave Ruth's party. We were called for an interview, and they insisted, if I'm married, I come with my spouse. The reason behind it was, one, they'll have 2 votes from my family, my husband's and mine. So after the interview, they told us, go and wait. And they gave us the feedback that I was successful. Yeah, and there was a panel of judges. The panel of selection was headed by a retired judge. So I was told that I was successful. And let me take this opportunity to thank Prof. and Ruth's party. In 1997, I was 10 years old. And my member of parliament, I grew up in Kibera, so you know who the member of parliament was then, and was running for president. So 25 years later, being on the same ballot paper with my former member of parliament of Langata in 1997 is a humbling experience. And that speaks into Ruth's commitment of bringing youth onto the decision-making table and converting them into frontline actors in the development agenda.
All right. And Prof, tell us a little bit about yourself so that Kenyans understand who you are. But at least Justina has mentioned that she's married, and in 1997 she was only 10. Who is Prof. Wajakoya?
I'm an ugly-looking guy, very frightening. That's number one, with a beard, a former chokora, street boy, policeman, security guard, a grave digger, and somebody who went to school, by virtue of God just making me to go to school.
No family history, no
I have children,
married?
I have children, I have a wife, she's an American, she lives in the US, our children live in the UK, they are grown up, and sooner or later they will have the opportunity of coming back home now that they have naturalized as Kenyan citizens.
What is the significance of what you wear on your head?
This one is a durak, and trust me, this in itself is a protest against corruption. When African Americans were being taken as slaves to the United States, a lot of them died on the ship, and every time one died, the live ones were told to throw the dead one in the sea. But they tore the t-shirt, they tore the shirt or the clothes this person was wearing, and they always tied on their head to know how many members have died. So if you tied 10, that meant 10 died, but the white people the slave masters did not know. So they used, that was a continuity even when they settled in the US, whereby any protest they wanted to make, they used a durak. And that's why you see basketballers in the US using a durak, because the first time they constituted a game in 1817, the whites refused to play with them. So they protested by wearing a durak. This is a mean of protest against evil, and therefore I'm protesting against corruption in this country. And this is the image I have.
You've forgotten to say, Prof believes that vijana ni viongozi wa sasa hivi, not what others tell us that vijana ni viongozi wa kesho. Yeah.
All right, let's bring ourselves your more feedback as we try to wind up on this. Kiplagat Kipro says, kindly ask Wajakoya which cabinet post will he abolish? Secondly, which will be his preferred dress code as president? Will he do away with the durag?
No, not at all. This is me, and there are so many young people who are now drawing this. We also have people drawing me on matatus and graffitis. This is my dress code. I'll wear it anytime.
How will your ministries be structured?
The ministries will be structured once we cross the bridge. I'll ask my deputy and those who will be with us to sit down. It will not be a one-man decision.
Okay. So this is how you will look even during a presidential
Definitely,
function.
even
you will not be wearing suits.
I can wear a suit when I go to court.
Okay.
It doesn't really. I wear suits when it's. But this is my. I'm very comfortable in this. Very comfortable. No suits or whatever. Of course, I have suits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Many people
know that
refer to you as professor. Of
but,
what?
Well, people ask me. Some of them say it's fake professor. Some of them, oh, no PhD, what have you. But let me take this opportunity and clarify. Out of all the degrees I have, the first PhD I had was conferred to me by Arnold Schwarzenegger through the recommendation of American Heritage University, which was actually a honorary PhD for outstanding academic work that he done in the UK and the US. Right now I'm in the final touches of my PhD, which I'm doing a PhD in criminal justice and public policy. And I'm zeroing in on immigration. I'm looking at discrimination on Section 289G of the Immigration Act 1996 in the UK, in the US, whereby Congress has supplied plenary powers to allow state police and local police to stop any person they desire to be an alien. And the consequences of that stoppage is, if the alien is found to have committed a crime, whether with permanent residence or with no permanent residence, that person will not be given bail. So I've zeroed in Maricopa County, and I'm looking at the effect of that act, or whether it discriminates and whether it is positive discrimination or negative. So I've written my work. Last year I was actually awarded a Master of Philosophy because of my outstanding work.
Okay. So it is not done yet?
It's not yet done yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have a series of degrees and I have a series of writings. And those who may want to doubt, they can do so by actually making inquiries. Nation newspaper was the first one to doubt me. Nation TV, when I came in, and they wrote to those universities and they came to. So I'm not coming here to plagiarize that I'm what I am not.
Okay.
But mind you, in the US, once you become a teacher, you can either be an adjunct professor or a professor. It depends on the university to validate you.
All right. Let's say a bit more about you, Justina. How would you describe yourself so that Kenyans understand who you are, where you're coming from? You just mentioned that you're married, but who is Justina?
Justina believes in being different. I see myself, in life, when you wait for people to clap for you or appreciate you, they'll never do it. So for me, I see life differently, and I motivate myself to do things different. My degree was in BCom. But in 2015, when I was so unemployed, I tried to do a TV show. Remember, I was not even a communications major. But I got my friends and I wrote a TV show, a concept, hoping would sell it. It never worked. Actually, sitting on this bench today, I would tell Jeff that that time was really writing to him to have me on the bench just to steal this concept of the bench and use it in my show. So I believe in chance. I believe in seeing yourself and having the aspirations, and also there's something called how do you put it, being positive energy. If you really believe in something, you tell God what you want and leave it to him. So even this race to State House, as Prof says, that ours, we are doing everything step by step. We did not run there to put up 600 billboards before even ABC had cleared us. We are taking things slowly. So in life, take things step by step. Also, being in the business I do is generally male-dominated. So I challenge myself into going into new things, doing things that are new, and it's good. It's always a learning experience for me.
All right. Let's bring up some of your feedback as well as we wind up on this conversation, and then I'll give you a chance for closing remarks. Thomas Musoti says, what's Wajakoya's plan with the education system? Will CBC stay?
Well, let me say this one. I've looked at those CBC things and I'm like, wow. But my education system is pegged on a parent, a child, a teacher, a mentor, and the government. Let there be stakeholding between the two. In the US, education is not compulsory. It is the parent who decides the format in which his child should go to school. We should give freedom to the parents to find out exactly what kind of education they want their children to go to achieve, rather than coming into the top-down mechanism, not bottom-up. I don't believe in bottom-up. The top-down mechanism whereby somebody somewhere, and I repeat that synopsis of a suitman, going to sit down to make policies that injure a person who stays in Turkana, who must be told that you have to use internet, you have to do this to be civilized, instead of being told, let us commingle your culture and what you want and what your parents want that can benefit society from where you are to where we are.
Okay.
So I believe that parents have a stakeholder in the children, and they should be the ones to be consulted first and foremost, rather than somebody going to America and Germany and writing. And that's why our education system is the most foolish system in the world. Not because Kenyans are stupid, but because of the policies we had. Yeah. Somebody goes to America and comes back, Ministry of Basic Education, Higher Education, we are going to do this, we do the American way. We have just removed Kenya from where it was during Jomo Kenyatta's time, the first president, into very dusty situation.
Yeah.
An A-level from Uganda joins university in London, in UK directly because of their system.
Okay.
So is Tanzania. But in Kenya, our education has become suspect. If you go to the US and you say, I'm a graduate from Nairobi University, they're like, without knowing that this guy has worked so hard to reach where he is.
Okay.
But because of the systems of education, where parents are not consulted, where even students are not consulted, especially on research-based kind of mechanism, whereby they can find out from the past, the present, using qualitative or quantitative or both quantitative and qualitative research analysis pegged on the inception to find out the result.
Okay.
Here somebody just comes.
So 844 CBC, none of them work?
Well, I don't know, because maybe my friend can chip it.
Let me say this. It's good to love ourselves as a people.
Yeah.
And we should love that which is ours before we can make changes. I read in the papers that parents are now taking their children to IGC, the American system. But the difference between the American system and the Kenyan system is something called internationalization. One day, CBC will be internationalized. And I love the way it's practical. Many parents, during COVID, there was this meme that they were saying that fathers go to Kamaki's every evening. So when they come back home during COVID was lockdown, and you hear a father say, hey, Jerry, nilikuacha class 2, because parents were no, Jerry is in Form 3. Parents were never involved. So by forcing parents to come and be part of CBC and being part of the learning journey of the children is something that has changed the family dynamics. So let's not hate it, but probably give it a chance that later in life, it's going to be internationalized.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's bring up some of your feedback as well. Some more questions coming through. Brian Okoth, what is Wajakoya's net worth?
My brain cannot be quantified.
But you need resources for companies.
Yeah, the resources I have here cannot be quantified.
Okay.
Yes.
Justina? Because there are questions about, in fact, there's been a pegging that if you want to run for presidency in this country, you need at least 20 billion, so to speak. 20
billion that you've stolen from Kenyans over 20 years of being in government. Really, Kenyans, we need to change. And that is why we are talking about industrialized hemp. We want Kenyans to have money in their pockets in a way that when we are coming here to run for the seat again or asking another mandate after 5 years, as your president and deputy, you are the ones who will be funding our campaigns. We want Kenyans to have their own money and give them dignity. Actually, bursaries, we are going to scrape it out. Why should parents be here crying for, oh, Mheshimiwa didn't give me bursary? And Mheshimiwa, by the way, I ran for MP in Mavoko in 2017. And after elections, I sat down with the incumbents. And he told me, Justina, do you know what we get for bursary is so little? Yeah. So people say that we give our cronies, but the resources are scarce. We cannot afford to give everyone. So instead of government giving handouts in terms of bursary, let's have the farmer grow this industrial hemp, have money in their pockets, take their children to the schools they want. Schools will have money to even, upgrade classes, have more resources, have swimming pools. So the idea behind it is putting money in the pockets of Kenyans.
You remember the Kenyan today who said that he was going to pioneer to be the first one to grow hemp. What is his name again?
Mr. Gitundu.
Mr. Gitundu.
Yes.
What is the...
He owns Afro Sayari on Eastern Bypass.
And
yes.
you also mentioned earlier on that you're in a male-dominated business.
Yes. People on Eastern Bypass know me as Bule Madam wa Matinga. We're into excavation and supply of building materials. So everyone on Eastern Bypass, Utawala, Airways, MC, they know me. Ule mama wa matope, wanaditanga ndorologist. You know, ndoro in Kikuyu ni matope.
Yeah.
So when I failed in politics, I went back to be a neurologist. Okay. Yes.
All right, let's see some of your feedback as well as we wind up on this conversation, if there's still a few more. Honorable Andrew Sidede says, Muhesh, kindly talk about single mothers and health and also education and the youth. I think you mentioned education and the youth, health. What is your plan, Prof?
Roots care.
Roots care is there. Everybody will have enough money to even build a hospital at home or a dispensary. We are not going to plan for people who have money. Let's be like Arabs.
Yeah.
Arabs sleep during the day, they have a lot of oil, and people come to work for them. So Kenyans will be able to afford their own system of Medicare without being told how. It will be a process. It will take a long time.
So there'll be no bursaries, there'll be no insurance, everybody is essentially...
When you have a lot of money, because our main thing is, can we sustain what we are talking about today? And for how long is it going to be? Our long-term goal, not shortfall, what have you. Of course, we shall plan for affordable Medicare, not free Medicare, unless we have legislation to legalize the growth of marijuana so that everyone can have money in their pocket. But if we have that, then why would you be planning for somebody who is a millionaire who has got money, who can build his own hospital, who can build his own church and have the Bible and pray to the God, not through the Pope? Come on, let's have realization of this. But we shall meet and we shall sit down and we shall find out what went wrong with the healthcare policies and revert to the previous government, the first government in this country, where there was free Medicare under Kenyatta One administration.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry for interjecting you, but there's this thing as a roots government we recognize that a sick nation will not take us anywhere. The money we spend in terms of healthcare is enormous.
Yeah.
We are going to go back into teaching people good nutrition. And by the way, marijuana has food component in it. There's flour, there's oil. We are going to change this idea. We are going to ban sugar, by the way, which is not good for our bodies. We are going to ban something we call high fructose syrup, corn syrup, that is brought into Kenya, that is imported. Why should we have the sodas, the pizzas, anything that is not adding value to your body, but it's going to make you be obese, it's going to add make you diabetes, increase your high blood pressure, cancer levels are high. So we are going to go back into organic kind of food. And the money that we could have used in roots care will go into other development agenda.
What happens to sugarcane farmers?
I come from Mumias.
Okay.
Yeah, where somebody ate Mumias Sugar Company and swallowed it. And I'm told that the same person became a thief many times. Of course, he will be tried when we take over, and he will face the high fiber. In Mumias today, if you look at how Mumias came up and Zoia, yes, they came up very high and they went down very quickly. We shall no longer go that route. If we allow the growth of marijuana, each farmer will have 50 million probably in a month, because marijuana, hemp grows only for 4 months. It produces the best fiber. It has byproducts, as she said. She talked of the food products, but we are talking of commercial products, like the Canadians have just now made a plane made out of fiber. The Israelis' military equipment, and that's why Israel is very powerful in this world when it comes to its armament, is actually because of growing marijuana and harvesting hemp to make their product, to make their own planes, to make their own armament and equipment and what have you, brake pads. And so instead of going to grow one sugarcane and enslave people to be cane cutters, looking at people walking in tattered clothes, come on, we are going to allow them to do that. But also, before we go ahead, there's this issue of mitumba.
Yes.
Look at what I'm wearing. Yes, this one is new. I bought it in a shop in the US. But this is mitumba, this one, from the US. Look at how I look. Simplicity. Let Kenyans have freedom to do what they want. If you look at the mitumba industry in this country, it has put food on lots of people's tables.
Yeah.
It has led people to educate their children. Some people are coming in and saying we shall ban mitumba, but we have the answer. We have fiber. Maybe you can continue where we shall have our factories, please.
Fiber gives a byproduct for textile industries. So we know where we're going to get our raw materials for Rivertex. What was the other? You were there in the Kikomi. We have the raw materials in hemp. And let me add this about the farmer. This year being an electioneering period, government has told them that they're going to buy their sugarcane at 4,112 shillings per ton. Look at the global prices. If it is coffee, they're paying, the farm gate price of coffee and tea is 23 shillings per kg as it is. Maize, 90 kg bag goes for 3,000, but industrial hemp goes for 159,000 per kg. This calls upon us to have competitive advantage. As a government, we want to run a profitable government, just like private sector looks at what are the trends, what is the going concern. And the going concern is that let us focus on hemp. So even that farmer who is earning 4,000, the sugarcane farmer, clearly is even given up on it because declining global prices is not favoring him.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll give you a chance for closing remarks each, but Prof, somebody is wondering why you're wearing 2 watches. Are they 2 watches?
Yes, this one is for my health, heartbeat and rotaview. Whenever if I want to swim or if it rains on me, nothing happens. This one is just, I don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke. I love wearing watches because they remind me where I've come from and I don't want to go there.
Okay.
That's why.
So you wear 2 of them. Okay. Let's say closing remarks, and Justina, I'll start with you. 63 days to the polls. What should Kenyans focus on, and how are you as a presidential team going to ensure there's peace in the campaign season? And what is your plan? We haven't seen you out there campaigning like all the others.
Let me say this, dear Kenyans, that Ralph Waldo once told us that in every generation there are people who are risk takers, people who seize the moment and try to change the perception of the people. That is Roots Party. But again, about peace, Rastaman is a peaceful man. So we are telling leaders that if Kenyans do not give you the mandate, please go back to what you've been doing. Let's give the person who has won the position to continue to do their job, and you go back and let him do his job. But also, if he calls you upon to work with them, why not? Because the interest of Kenyans is large. So we are here saying, as a Rastaman, we are peaceful people, and you'll not hear any violence from our end.
Okay.
Yes.
Prof, closing remarks.
As we are not going to abuse anybody, we are not going to point fingers at anyone. We are asking Kenyans to look at us as we are. This is the only chance Kenyans have to change this country, because we are only 4. And out of the 4, we have one group, that's me and Justina, that have the real concerns of Kenyans. But if they want to follow money, if they want to be attached to good returns of somebody who is giving them money, fine. But what I want also to say is, we don't have a problem with the church, and I want to make it very clear. The church now is coming up, and it's ganging up against me, telling me that I'm ruining their children, or telling Justina that you're ruining their children. Let them go back to the Bible and read the Bible very, very correctly. They should actually find out why Israel, where God came from, has never abolished hemp. Let them also find out why they accept monies every Sunday in the church for Harambee and they don't condemn it, money that has come from evil. Let some of these pastors not be very judgmental, because God will judge them very, very harshly. And I'm praying, because I'm a prayerful person, I love God. I am praying to my God that we pray that we get elected, so that we can actually put what we have within us to enable Kenyans to have food on the table. They will build their own churches, and the only communication they have between them and God is that Bible or the Quran, so that somebody can pray to God personally, instead of being victimized by some of these so-called pastors, not all of them, who are now coming out condemning Professor Wajakoya, yet when they give or receive money from Sugoi, they don't say nothing. And thank you. And let Kenyans vote for us and vote for change.
And they read Genesis 1:12, Ezekiel 34 and 29. It is there, that hub God gave us, God gave the Israelites when they were in slavery, to give them food, to give them the status. It is there. Please read your Bible.
All right.
And even Jesus himself accepted to be anointed by oil made out of hemp when that unfortunate lady put her hair in his feet. So if Jesus said yes, who are they? Thank you.
No, atupatie polisi.
All right. But then how has life changed ever since you were cleared by IBC?
No,
is it any different now?
No, no more.
No security, nothing?
Well, security is God. Wherever we are given belongs to the human mankind.
But if they'll be assigned to you, because that will only happen once you're gazetted,
well,
you accept?
Yeah, we shall do what the Constitution says before we abolish it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. Professor George Wajakoya, thank you so much for making time. And Justina Wangoi were my Roots Party presidential team. And also thank you all for all the feedback that we had. There's quite a number of them. We couldn't go through all of them, but you'll interact with them again during the presidential debate. My name is Trevor Mbije. It's always been a pleasure having you here with us. I was sitting in for Jeff Koinange. Next week, we'll be back. Bye and good night.
Thank you. Names, as you know, Wajakoya. I'm a Kenyan. I was born in 1959, October 24th. My parents divorced when I was a young boy. And then a lot of things happened. Many years down, I found myself in the streets of Nairobi. And after that, I was taken by Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. I became a devotee and they took me to school. And then Mr. Ramlal Sharma of City High School, Ramlal Sharma, the principal of City High School, who was also a worshipper in the temple, took charge of me and took me to his school. He gave me a small place to stay in order to go to school. Some jobs that I did, manual jobs. I finished Form 4 and then J.J. Kamodo took me as his son, the late minister for, then he was basic education. Jonathan Ngeno was higher education. Then he paid for my fees for Mumia's boys, Form 5 and Form 6, 80, 81. And after that, I did not have good grades to go to the university because it was a new school. But however I tried, I missed university by 2 points. Then later on, I joined the Kenya Police as a police constable, where I found people like Mbugwa, the current director, Deputy Inspector General of Police. I found the regional, and the current regional police commander in Nyeri, and many others who are in senior rank. After our initial training in Kiganjo, as a constable, I was posted to Central Police Station, Nairobi. Then, after serving, we were called back to Kiganjo because of the A level. And then again, I met my friend Mbugwa, the Deputy Inspector General, in the same class. Then after that, I came and worked at Pangani Police Station. Then I went to Kasarani Police Station. I worked for some time before I joined the Intelligence Directorate of Security Intelligence. By then it was known as a special branch. Then having worked for many years there, I got a scholarship to go and study in KIA for 1 year, study French, with the current ambassador of Iran, Mr. Gatimu, Joshua Gatimu, who was also my colleague. Then after that, again, we excelled in exams at Kenya Institute of Administration, which is now currently University of Nairobi in Kabete, and went to University of Burundi for advanced diploma in French. Then when I came back, I was put to be in charge of Dr. Huko. For the first time, I will speak about Huko as we continue. I've never spoken before, but today I'll speak, if you allow me. Because of the honor I have for the Daily Nation, I think this is the first time that I want to speak my mind. When Huko was murdered, there was a lot of contradictory stories. Then I was commissioned by Mr. Kanyotu, the then director of intelligence, a good man indeed. I think he trusted me. And he asked me to find out from the system who might have been involved And we did what we did. And then there was some attempt to cover up Uko's story. But as usual, I was on the resisting side because you cannot alter or doctor the gadgets that we were using, especially the telephone communications that we were using by that time. I'm speaking for the first time because I'm going to be the president of this country, and people are going to ask, what did you know? Even though I will not give the specific details. Today you are here for my presidential candidature. And when we found out what we found out and the coverage, those who wanted us to cover, and the change of guard in the intelligence by that time, when Kanyuto was retired, Kivuvani took over, things went upside down. And then I was detained, tortured and tortured properly. And it was as a result of that that the U.S. Embassy through Smith Hempston, who was again agitating with the people like Raila Odinga, Paul Mwite, Gitobi Manyara, when they were agitating for change in this country. That's the time when all of us were circled, them from the political wing and us from the intelligence wing. So the torture was so enormous that I couldn't survive, so I was taken to hospital. Mockery to the Force Memorial Hospital with an envelope. And the main intention, I don't know what was in that envelope. But what I saw is that there was a big shock of a man who was actually there. I cannot name his name, but he was a good man. He was a brigadier doctor in the army in charge of duties at the Force Memorial Hospital. So he whisked me away in another room. And those who took me there was very suspicious. Probably that was an attempt to clear me off, because a lot of my colleagues were killed in different, and nobody has ever come out to challenge this. Well, after that, with a lot of issues that were going on, sometimes they could blindfold me. Before I was taken to hospital, they could blindfold me in a place I didn't know, then open my site at the city mortuary at night. And that's why I inhaled eczema. So that was maximum psychological torture, emotional torture. And as God may have planned for me to escape, the Americans through Smith Hempston assisted me. They took me to wherever, and I found myself in Germany. I left by Lufthansa, cargo plane. I never knew what was going on. And am I boring you?
No. In fact, I wanted to ask so much about the Uko matter.
Yes. Then I definitely ended up in Britain on the way to the United States, but there was a lot of things that happened which I'm not going into details. So the British decided to retain me, and 3 weeks after that, Ndolo Aya, the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Elijah Mwangari, the then Minister for Agriculture, were dispatched to London to find out whether I could be extradited back to Kenya. But as fate will make it, media, you guys, media, saved my life, because something went into the media, and Glenda Jackson, MP for Hampstead and Keith, and also some serious journalists from the Times newspaper in London, and the tabloids took over my story, and it became a trending story in London at that particular time, and that's what saved me. So I lived quietly. I was given a different name, and I was taken to a place of the homeless in Camden Town, where I stayed with the homeless people to cover me not to be recognized until it was right for me to now go to school. But then going to school was another issue. But I have also to thank Honorable James Orengo and Mr. Ward, the father of Julie Ward, for playing a critical role in sending my papers from schools here to enable me to go to school. Orengo is a great man. Orengo is one of those people that I will mention wherever I go as good people and men of honor. I'm also thankful to Raila Odinga. That particular time he was an MP, I think, and also Mrs. Ndetei. Mrs. Ndetei, I think, was an MP, for taking over the story and go into Parliament to tabble it. The rest you can find out. This is a true story, and I have to insist it's a true story. Then the Moi regime took what they could do. They took us to court, they took the Times to court, they took any newspaper that they had spoken to court, and Biwott and other people. And then in the long run again, I found myself at the University of Wolverhampton, Holborn College, but I didn't have the fee. So I had to do manual jobs, to do grave digging. It was as a security guard, and life went on as normal under the name George Walker. George Walker, which appeared in all my documents. I can reveal because it's over 30 years now. Then I finished my bachelor's of law degree, and I went on and did what I did. Went to many universities, became an academic, became a foot soldier for Raila's father, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, when he came to be treated for his eyes, when he was being treated by Dr. Wino, who is still alive. He's a surgeon in London, and the late Osumbalangi, who was also giving the late Jaramogi accommodation. And that's when now we became custodians of Raila Odinga whenever he came to London. Sir David Steele, who is now Lord Steele, who was the leader for Liberal Democrats, actually made a ring for us to follow Raila, to make sure that he was not attacked. Even though the British government was also doing its work, as we were careful with him wherever Kenyans' gatherings were. So Raila owes me a lot, and I respect him a lot on that one. After that, I became a lawyer, raised my family, and I received a lot of threats in London, which I'm not going to go in details. The case of Dr. Uko is still in court. Couldn't go beyond what is in court, and I knew you were going to ask me that. I will preempt me in advance. So that's where we go as far as that is concerned. American, she works in the US, where she stays now, and I'm here. I don't want to name. Probably when I die there will be more, so I'll be doing a disservice. You know, we lawyers, when we die, like my friend, the late Juma, a lot of children came out, but I believe that my children are just the same ones I have. I don't have any things out there. And I have a daughter here. Her name is Maureen, whom I heard before I left. And we are in communication.
For so long time you were
In exile for so many years, from 1991 you can count, until 2012 when I came back. While in exile, I joined the pressure groups to put pressure on Kenya. And when I was a student leader at the University of London, School of Oriental and African Studies, I invited the likes of Dennis Akumu, the late Dr. Liki, Koigi Wamwere, and we put a lot of pressure on Moi. So we fought for the second liberation. But because at that time there was a lot of issues here, nobody would recognize that, but Raila recognizes that. Then I worked quietly, and I went to various universities to study. And I became accustomed to being a security guard. I mean, that was the best thing, and digging graves. It gave me that harmony, whereby I could do my work. I loved it. I also worked at the Royal Free Hospital as a morgue attendant, where the late Wamalu, whose home is this one, was taken many years later. And I also watched those red buses. Let me say I did all the jobs that people do. And that was the best thing that happened to me. It matured me up. And I became involved in a lot of liberation struggles for South Africa, Ethiopia, the Eritrea, also part of the Angola, involved in the Angola struggle. I was also involved in the SWAPO struggle, and I was also involved in the struggle here. I wanted to bring up change by force, by teeth by arms, we did what we wanted to do, to bring justice. While the groups of Railas were fighting here, us with others were fighting from outside. And we were prepared to do whatever it could take to bring down the then dictatorial government. And that became something that has helped me to earn a lot of marks with world leaders who are struggling. We were also part of the Joe Rawlings group, pressure group. We did a lot of things in West Africa, which I'm not going to divulge. And we've done a lot of things in East Timor. We were part of the support group, supporting the Timorians to become independent from Indonesia by contributing money, getting money and contributing. We have also done quite a lot of things in this Africa, the countries that I'm not going to mention. But when I became a practitioner, a legal practitioner, the crusade now changed from armed struggle, because I was agitating for overthrow of some regimes in different parts of the world. Then I joined Sub-Commandant Marcos to liberate the Chiapas from Mexico. I also worked indirectly or directly with the Sinn Féin, the Irish Republicans who were trying to fight in Britain. I think I was the only black one who was associated with Jerry Rawlings and McGuinness. And when the nation of Ireland became free, Northern Ireland became free, I think I also became free. And I learned a lot of things from people who were in exile. I was part of the Southern Sudanese Liberation Movement. Because I didn't have so much to do other than going to school, working as a grave digger and what have you, and then fighting to liberate and democratize some of these nations. So my hand is everywhere. I've been received by many governments as a true friend of the Sudanese people during Garang's regime. I've been received by the Museveni government. I don't want to go into details. I've been received by Nigerians as an advisor to the former president, Jonathan Goodluck. You can check those facts. I've been received in Ghana. And I remember when there was an attempted coup, so-called imaginary attempted coup on Moi, there are those people who were taken to Uganda. I was part of the team that pushed them from Uganda to Ghana. And that's why I've been very close to Jerry Rawlings. And I'm happy to be home because what we wanted has come to pass.
Now tell us about how you came back to Kenya in 2012.
Yes, I talked to my American friends. I talked to congressional members. I talked to some members of the House of Lords in London. And I also talked to some international organizations to speak to the Kenyan government to guarantee my return. Because by that time, Kibaki was the president, Moi was still alive, Biwott was still alive. And I didn't know what was going to happen. So my first coming to run for president was not realistic. It was to cover me, to be present. So one of the things that we planned out there is that I come and announce as a presidential candidate. Then we formed a political party which was refused registration. And I am thankful to President Kibaki, and I'm not going to go into details. What I know is that my security was guaranteed, and I'm also thankful to Uhuru Kenyatta, but most importantly, Raila Odinga, because Raila knows a lot about me, and Raila did not want to put me up front. He did not want to identify himself with me for my own security, because part of the people that I had named as killers of Dr. Huko are still alive, of which I'm not going to name, but it was that time I was gagged by the courts. So Raila played a big role in my life here because, one, if he had identified me, or identified himself with me, could have been cooked meat. So his wisdom also kept me moving. And the Odinga family, I can assure you, even if we are on the ballot today, his pushing me aside was intended, well intended and calculated. His father, whom I helped so much as his foot soldier, also encouraged me to move on. He used to call me Ruat. Ruat in my language means Shimos, and a small calf. He came one day and he told me, son, thank you. The only thing I can do for you, you know, he liked to eat morenda and ile ugali ya wimbi. And he tell me, you know, son, Mom, when I go back to Kenya, I'm going to speak to Masinde Mlito. Masinde must come and see you. Masinde will come and see you, Ogwebi. So we organized and Masinde came to see me through Oginga Odinga himself. And then things happened and he died. And I will speak on Masinde's issues when the right time comes as well. They are the remnants of the mentors. Of course they are there, but majority of them have died. Bad luck. I have nothing to do with their death. Some of them just died when I'm still alive. And what can I say? Unfortunately, they died when I had returned. No, I cannot, as I said before.
Okay. When you assume presidency, will you revenge on the remnant?
We shall decide to do when we arrive there.
So what does that mean?
Well, let's wait until I become the president, then you'll see what I have in my boot. I can't reveal because I don't know whether I will win or not.
Now that you have stayed after the country for so long, what's your allegiance?
My allegiance is to God only and God.
As an immigration lawyer, what's your view on Miguna?
Miguna is my client and I wouldn't say anything. He's my client.
Okay. Yes, would you bring him back?
I'll bring him to swear me.
Okay.
Because he's my potential Chief Justice. He deserves better than that. He's a human being, he's a Kenyan, his rights have been violated, the courts have been on with him, and I feel so pained whenever I speak with him that I'm speaking when Miguna is away. Miguna is supposed to be here. Miguna should be participating in the elections. But you know what? This world is a very small world. If you do something to someone and you pain that person, that pain comes back to you. You can say by what we have seen. From independence, there are people who suppressed others for so long, but what happened to them? Look at Njonjo when he was suppressing people. Where is Njonjo? Look at Gigi Kariuki. Look at Biwot. All these people who are suppressing Miguna are going to die. And Miguna will come back to attend their funeral.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
Last week? Let me check. I'll confirm now. Yeah, here it is. You can see, even Saturday, I sent him this, and I even sent him an invitation to come for my